Hello and welcome to the third installment of Modeling Porous Pavements. My name is Maria Cahill. I'm a consultant with a business called Green Girl Land Development Solutions, and I'm working for OSU Extension as part of their LID Academy to create resources and tools that agencies can use to meet their TMDL regulations. So if you have any questions at all about this video or the work that I do, you can reach me at greengirlpdx, and my phone number is right there, 503-334-8634. And so let's jump right into hydrologic modeling. This third installment is, you should watch at least the first installment of hydrologic modeling, simple hydrologic modeling. It has information on an Excel sheet that I created. Get rid of that one. Yes, that's fine. And that Excel sheet model is right here. It's an open source model. Anybody can use it and modify it. It was I used and modified it from someone else with permission, and you have our permission to use it. So I'm going to step you through a way to use this model when you don't have a hydraulically isolated porous pavement. So to date, the first and second videos have all assumed that a pavement is hydraulically isolated, meaning we're not going to take runoff from one area and put it into another area. And assuming that has worked quite well for us. To date, we've had, the examples that we've used have used very large storms, 4-inch storms with very low infiltration rates of 0.1 inch per hour. And we're still disposing of the entire storm. If not in 30 hours, then at least in 72 hours. And you can certainly, I encourage you to go back and take a look at those. But this video, I'm going to show you how to see whether or not the depth of your storage rock is going to be adequate for the additional runoff that's coming from someplace else. And I'm going to use a case study of a project that I worked on in the city of Portland. So one thing I will say before we go to good old slide 150 is that you should always have a civil engineer on a project for any kind of roads project that's going to be porous pavement. Porous pavements have to manage stormwater and hold traffic loads. And today we are just talking about how to manage stormwater. So it's only 1/2 of the design criteria for porous pavements. But we'll find out what the rock depth is for that and whether or not it works or how to make it work, and then continue on. Okay, so here's the project that I did for the city, in the city of Portland. It's not hydraulically isolated, so we have a building here. And we have pervious asphalt. That was what was proposed. In actuality, this project, this is Shaver Green up on Northeast Interstate Avenue. This pavement actually ended up being concrete because we couldn't install asphalt in the cold weather. And so when they got around to doing the pavement, it was too cold. And we ended up, like I said, doing concrete. But pervious asphalt, porous asphalt, pervious concrete, it doesn't matter what you put there. We're just modeling the base rock below it. And so got our building. We have downspouts at each of a couple different places, and those downspouts drain across the sidewalk via surface trench drains. So we keep the water high. It dumps into a little rain garden here, and the rain garden overflows to a rock area that's connected down through down to the rock below. And so this whole area, this whole parking lot is porous, pervious concrete, and these are all the landscape areas. Some of them are rain gardens, some of them are not. This gives us a way to settle out particulates before sending them sending the water into the base rock. Any water if this rain garden gets overtaxed with flow, any water that can't make it into the rock that connects down to the rock below flows across the trench drain a traffic rated trench drain that's at the surface and flows into this other rain garden with another overflow to the base rock. So we're getting all of our runoff into here. And this outline here is the extent of an additional depth of subgrade rock that we needed. So when you get into taking, there are certain setbacks for bioretention, and then there are for an infiltration, then there are for pervious pavements. So pervious pavements, you can infiltrate right up to a building or right next to an impervious sidewalk like this, but when you're taking a bunch of runoff and concentrating it into a smaller area, like a rain garden, you need to have a 10-foot setback. And so I'm not saying that we're concentrating that runoff into the rain garden, but what we are doing is concentrating it. And so we need to have a 10-foot setback for the rock trench. So that's why there's another little deeper rock trench here where the water can go down into. So there's 12 inches of base rock here, and I think that we ended up installing 24 inches of base rock here, which was total and complete overkill for the infiltration rates that we were finding. But for this case study, we're going to look at an infiltration rate of 0.1 inches per hour again, just to be consistent with the first two videos and see what happens. So and so the other thing about this is that we could use perf pipes to distribute the roof runoff to the subgrade rock. So you just connect this. Instead of going through all of this, you could just dump this into a little pre-treatment catch basin with a sump to settle out sediments, and then you could pipe it, perforated, via perforated pipes, and run those along the bottom of your rock trench. But that's a UIC, which is an underground injection control, and then you have to tango with the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, and you have to renew your permit every 2 years, and it's not really that much fun. And so I try to avoid that. And I know that the people at the UIC department appreciate it when designers try to avoid UICs, because they're trying to protect groundwater quality, and they want to see water coming off of a roof or any other impervious surface and going into bioretention first before it goes into the ground. They want to see it passing through 18 inches minimum of healthy soil. They don't want you to pipe potentially contaminated groundwater or contaminated runoff below grade, where it's not going to run into healthy soil that has air and that's getting air and water. The conditions of that deeper soil are different, and so you don't get the water quality that you get when you run it through plants and soil at the surface. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, I have this model, which I've explained in the other two videos, so I'm not going to explain it again. You'll just have to watch the first video to find out. But I have this model, and in the city of Portland, we would be infiltrating 3.9 inches. That's their requirement, is to infiltrate the entire 10-year frequency, 10-year frequency, 24-hour storm. And so that's the first step, is to enter my rainfall data there, which I did. And step 2 is enter the contribution area. So that's the porous, in past examples, it was just the contribution area was equal to the base rock. But now we're taking runoff from other places and putting it into the base rock. So we have to include the porous pavement itself, plus the impervious area draining to it. So that's the roof area, 11,326, and the pavement sidewalk. And I don't have to include the landscape area, but it was easy to draw a box around this really quick. The landscape area is pretty small, and if I get somewhere close at the end of the model where I think things aren't working out, but they could possibly work out if I removed that area, then I'll go back and massage this. So let's see, roof area 11,326. So we'll say equals 11,326 plus, go back there, plus 9992. 9992. Okay, so that's our contribution area. And you can see the storage rock area filled in automatically, but in our case, that's not correct. We're not using a hydraulically isolated landscape. So, oh, there it is, 21,318. Is that what we got? 21,318, great. Okay, so the storage rock area is actually the smallest area where water may pond. That's what we really kind of want to conserve. This is conservatively looking at it because we did include this pavement out here, and that pavement is going to be, you know, self-managing. We already proved that in the first video, but I just threw it in there anyway. So let's look at the storage rock area and see if that will work for our model. So 6629 square feet is the storage rock area. Some design guidance there that you can read about later. Okay, so we enter the storage rock area. And then keeping all the same values we had in the first video. So if we keep the C in Q equals CIA, the rational method of 0.98 inches, that's implying that there's runoff coming off of the pavement. That's not true. This is just a convenient way to model porous pavements, is to say that all of the rainfall that hits the pavement runs through it and ends up in the base rock somehow. So that's what we want to leave that at 98%. That's probably a pretty safe number, which is why it's in white. It's a number that I don't expect you'd have to change. And we're going to assume, just for fun, 0.1 inches per hour is a very low infiltration rate. And we'll try what we had tried before. Depth of storage rock is 12 inches. This is actually what we're trying to get at in our design, is how much rock do we need to infiltrate 3.9 inches of rainfall over this contribution area in this amount of storage rock. And I'm going to say that I'm going to have an overflow elevation that doesn't let water come back up over the pavement. I'm going to have some sort of outlet structure that holds water back to 12 inches. And this checks to make sure that I haven't created an impossible situation. So I wouldn't want to have the water come back up through the pavement, because I could have structural problems. If what if I only have a 3-inch pavement and I say that the outlet is 18 inches? Well, I've created an impossible situation. So I want to say this needs to be 12. This needs to be equal to or less than the depth of the storage rock, this outflow elevation. So anything under that, under 12, will always give you a true. That's all that's checking. So we'll leave it at 12. So we come down here and we look at some numbers that popped out of the hydrograph that's down here, which you should never have to touch. And that's all the user inputs that we have. User inputs here. Whoops, and then calculated values. So let's look at the calculated values. Whoops, sorry, your eyes are spinning. The maximum ponding depth in the storage rock during the storm is 12 inches. So during the storm, we're probably exceeding the depth of the rock. And the depth of water left in the storage trench after 30 hours is 12 inches. So we have a really low infiltration rate, a lot of runoff coming up here. There's no storm that could be stored after 30 hours in the remaining rock, because there is no remaining rock. And we find out that it's not going to be empty in 30 hours. We already knew that. There were 12 inches of water in this facility after 30 hours, and it's not even going to be empty in 72 hours. So this is not working, as we can see. And if we just went back here and put a really big number in for the storage rock, and a really big number equal to the outflow elevation, we would find out that, holy cow, we need 25 inches of rock. Whereas, when we were doing a hydraulically isolated pavement in video 1, we found that we only needed like 4 inches of rock. So that's a lot of rock. That's actually, I see that all the time in details, but that's not necessarily necessary. And that there's just, the infiltration rate is so low, putting so much water in there that it's never going to be empty in time. The system doesn't work. So there are some things that we could do about that. We could go back and take the planter area out of the equation. We could go back and take the porous pavement area out of the equation that we saw. Oh yeah, This is a good one right here. So we could take this area of the porous pavement out that's self-managing, because that's really not receiving the runoff from the roof. The runoff from the roof is getting into this storage rock area here. So we could take that out of the contribution area, but chances are we're still going to have a problem with our design. So let's talk about, theoretically, if we tested a higher infiltration rate. So there's nothing that you can do to change the native soil infiltration rate. You'd have to, unless you remove all of the soil down to a level where the native soils are different and infiltrate faster. But if you're going to infiltrate at the same depth that you're basically, you're infiltrating in the same soil that you tested, there's no treatment that you can do to change the infiltration rate of the soil. You could change it for the first 18 inches, but as long as your, in this case, clay soils were below that, your infiltration rate is still what it is. So I just want to be really clear that I'm changing this value as a second example of how this might work. So 0.5 inches, if you actually tested the soils out there and found that we had half an inch per hour infiltration rate, we went back to the depth of the storage rock being 12 inches and the depth of the overflow being 12 inches. Well, then we would only be ponding in the storage rock area, we'd only be ponding about 7 inches. And the whole thing would be empty in 30 hours, and we could be ready for the next storm. So that's pretty cool. Empty in 30 hours, empty in 72 hours, we're good to go. So the conclusion is that we need, when we're taking runoff from another place and trying to cram it into a smaller area, we need, let me go back. Porous pavements that are hydraulically isolated, like in video 1 and 2, are only managing rainfall. So the contribution area is as large as the infiltration area, or vice versa. The infiltration area is as large as the contribution area. So you can have a really low infiltration rate and still have a very high functioning pavement. But when we're taking a bunch of runoff from one place and trying to cram it into a smaller area and adding the rainfall to that smaller area, well, then we have a problem that's a lot more like bioretention, where you're taking, a big parking lot and cramming it into a bioretention facility that's maybe 10, 15, 20% of the area that's draining to it, much smaller. So that's kind of what we have here. It's a variation on that theme, and what we're seeing is that if we have the half an inch per hour, then things work that way, and that's half an inch per hour is the cutoff rate. It's the typical cutoff rate for using bioretention. In most jurisdictions, it's sort of a rule of thumb. It's definitely not a hard and fast thing. You could always make your bioretention facility bigger. So let's talk about that. I mean, there is an option that you could maybe make this storage rock area bigger somehow. Maybe get rid of a landscape area if the city would let you do that and take more area. But you really need the area. Deepening the rock isn't going to empty it out in 30 hours. And yeah, so I think that's the take-home message. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please do contact me. Here's my contact information again. Oops. Maria Cahill at greengirl at greengirlpdx.com. I'm sorry, I'm probably making you crazy because I'm trying to talk and do this at the same time. Okay, so there I am. Please do contact me if you have any questions, or you love this video, or you hate this video. And I hope you find this handy. Let me just actually really quickly show you where to download the porous pavement. If you Google OSU extension, you will get to the OSU Stormwater Solutions. That'll take you to the home page, and you can go down to the design your site, and you'll find the porous pavement calculator there. Porous Pavement Hydrologic Calculator. So the one that you want to use for what we just discussed is the simple Porous Pavement Hydrologic Design Calculator. Okay, have fun and do good work.